So let's jump in here. Actually, I want to discuss some of the picks here in the first round. I should not have started because my washer's going out and I got to manually manage the water. I should not have started to refill the tub before I sat down here. So give me 2 minutes. I'll be back. Okay. Weird energy with this draft. First off, this has got to be a record for the fastest draft ever. I know really keep track of these things, but man, it seemed like it flew. Hardly any dead spots. Guys left lists. We roll, roll. Yeah. All right, let's jump in here. So my man Dizzy P um, kicks off the hero round. He goes with the New York bottom. Can't argue with that. Can't argue with Lawrence Taylor. That was his first round pick. Randall Cunningham at QB um, was his hero pick. And I think the shit of it was we did not have any really good backs. We had two solid backs in the hero draft this year or this season. Uh, no elite, right? And so he takes Randall Cunningham. I think we have seen by now that quarterback running, the difference between like the fastest guys and anybody can be significant, especially if you're going to do it a lot, but it's not so huge. Oh, that's unfortunate. He wanted MDP, but had him listed as DT2, which caused him to pause. He went with Randall instead. That is a bummer. Um, Dizzy runs with the quarterback a lot. Like when you think of quarterback running, Mac is the first guy who comes to mind, but Dizzy Pete does it a lot. Pretty much every time he ran the curls play, he just ran up the middle with the QB. So Randall's going to get him yards he wouldn't otherwise get in this spot. Like I would never use first round it's hard for me to imagine like having what would I pick? I would have taken an MVP, but I knew what the deal was with him. I knew his real spot. Or I might have been tempted to take one of the backs, even though they're not superstars. It's too important a position. Let's roll on here. 40 went all defense with his first round picks. He takes Rufus Porter. Rufus Porter is uh, a bottom outside linebacker. That's an important position. He's not a good bottom outside linebacker, but he's not like a rock bottom guy. Does have, I think he's got 1 point better acceleration. He has a point of initial speed. He's a decent player. I don't love this. 1,000,000%. I don't care where you have MVP listed. Um, I'm not taking Rufus Porter over MVP. Um, some field goals. Yeah, he'll be like a worse Bickett. And I want to say Bickett starts to get real dangerous, like around like the 25, right in that range. So with his initial and his acceleration, Rufus he's gonna make you sweat right around that area as well. He does not have the same top speed Dwayne Bickett does though. And then of course 40 is married to the Washington top. Um, and so he takes that. Uh, with how barren the last few rounds are, Like Drew, Chris, and I had some discussion, and I think this discussion should continue of like realigning the defensive draft picks again. Because, for just one, it's always nice to stay fresh. HSTL does different tandems every draft. Uh, it's hard to say that things have gotten stale with how interesting this season's draft was, but it is kind of unfortunate that the back half of the draft is lame. There's no getting away from that in some regards. But there's also guys like take Leonard Marshall or Wilbur Marshall or Barry Wilburn. These guys, like whole defenses, are built around worse players than that, but they're buried with, like you're not going to use Wilbur except for blocking extra points, really, and in very certain circumstances with the Washington top, for example. But 40, I've kind of gotten off on a tangent here. 40 goes all defense here, and he has some speed on both the top and bottom after his first round. Of course, Cody takes Michael Dean Perry. Can't argue with that, and he takes Bo Jackson. So Cody's going to be right back at the top of the league. Um, I joked in the chat during the draft that maybe he's just going to be in a perpetual boom bust cycle from now until the end of time, where he either wins the league or goes, depending on where he drafts. There are some guys. His season 11 was derailed by lack of a running game. I think the guys didn't have to respect it, and so Cody's preference seems to be to pass. But when guys are sitting on pass, he can sometimes struggle to move the ball a little bit. He didn't have to play for relegation last season. Finished much stronger than he started. And his season 12 is off to a great start with those picks. Levi takes Lee Williams. Lee Williams is basically a U.S. Charles Mann clone. And Walter Payton, I can't argue with either of those. Lee Williams, definitely a manable defender. And he's going to provide some pass rush on poor receiver routes if you don't control him. So I like both those picks. I like any pick that involves a 10 speed draft. Wade and Tennessee took the hero draft running backs, OJ and Thurman Thomas. They're functionally the same guy, so that they could take defensive picks with their first round picks. Wade goes with Ronnie Lott and the San Francisco top, and Tennessee Williams takes Carl Banks and Leonard Marshall in the New York top. I think these are both excellent mid first round picks. Chris goes with Byron Evans, who's almost as good as Fred Young. He's not quite, but he's going to be a very good defender in that spot. And then he goes with Eric Dickerson because Chris just gets everything handed to him. Fucking Carl Banks, fucking 10 speed running backs. This guy, he just, everything just handed to him. Silver platter. Can't argue with either of those picks. Matt takes Jeff Cross. Jeff Cross is a Rulon clone, basically. Solid defender in a great spot. And then he took the Washington bottom. So that's his defense right there. Set. Charles Mann and Jeff Cross are going to make a good duo for him. And then he's got Daryl Green if he wants to get a little silly with it, a little froggy with it. Maybe call some bunk bed defense every once in a while just to throw the other guy off. Solid set of picks. Yeah, I'm scrolling down. Come on. So my earbuds don't want to work and my mouse isn't working. My setup's falling to pieces here. I haven't touched it in quite some time. So it's going to need some TLC before we start playing. Jerry, a man with a plan. Ingram 21. He takes Gentry and the Chicago special teams, even though they have a really bad punter, and pairs that with the hero San Fran offensive line. I didn't look at the numbers exactly, but I don't think San Fran surpasses US Indy. I think San Fran might surpass US Chicago, but I think they're more in that range. So we're talking like a top 2 or 3 O line because DPS has installed this absurd kick return meta where that's like the whole deal for some teams. That's Jerry's whole deal. O line, special teams, first round. I hate it. I hope it doesn't work. I really do. No disrespect to my man Jerry. I hate this shit and I hope it fails. Drew Manster takes Andre Reed. Andre Reed is a Japan Anthony Carter clone. Incredible. 10 speed, one initial. He's going to be a real problem in that top receiver spot. I don't remember what. Drew, what offense do you have? Is it Seattle? Did you get Seattle, Drew? NY. Okay. Yeah. And you took the NY receiving core. So that's a very strong receiving core. Bavaro and Stacy Robinson in that offense. That's going to be awesome. Really great setup for you there. And then takes Herschel. So you go all offense with your first round picks. Got to get that 9-4 back. Uh, would have ended up with one no matter what. Um, but wanted Herschel, must have wanted Herschel to forego rather than Marcus Allen. Because if you don't take Herschel, then I do. And then Dan will take Kurt Warner. And then you get Marcus Allen on the back end. But Herschel, this is, really an outstanding set of offensive talents. And then lastly, Dan, not a lot to pick from. I like his pick of Brent Jones. Brent Jones is a good tight end. Uh, he's got good speed. And then he takes the Cleveland top, classic Dan pick. Um, and then turns right around and grabs Kurt Warner, and I grab Marcus Allen. I always think of those first few picks in the second round as like the carryover from the first. Drew, that's interesting. I forgot that you picked Fred Young that high. The Seattle mid. Uh, I didn't talk about my first round pick. Chicago mid and my hero pick, Greg Townsend. Thought long and hard about that Minnesota top, which ended up falling to Ingram some picks later. Was kind of surprised Drew did not take those. My thinking on putting together this super middle of the defense is I can throw some sort of defensive run scheme against every playbook except San Fran. And I wanted some more. I wanted some more drone speed. I missed having that last year. I'm going to see if I can extract some sort of value from Singletary. Of course, he's the go-to on like a shotgun play. Probably the go-to if you're expecting pass or are almost certain they won't run. Um, so you can let your defensive line do its thing. But yeah, the more I think about it, the more I like it. Greg Townsend, he's a Dwayne Bickett, John Offerdahl type player in a spot that I can still take away a quick throw to the top where you may not necessarily. You definitely can't do that with Bickett. Um, Townsend's going to get a lot of play in my defense. Mongo will get a ton of play depending on the playbook. And then my man Singletary, I'm going to be looking for spots where I can take advantage of his speed. And either Singletary or Mongo can run. So I dig it. Dan, yeah, I touched on Dan's. So all right, now let's look at the teams here. Right? I'm tired, so I'm kind of sputtering and stammering here. But let's look at my man 40 FPS. Offense is Bernie Kosar, Joe Morris, Jerry Rice and the San Fran wide receivers, and the Chicago O line. Like that's good talent. That's really good offensive talent, and he puts it in the San Fran playbook. Now, I don't want to shit on my man 40. He's great. He's a great guy. He's a friend, right? And I think I've said everything I can about the San Fran playbook. Um, some dudes like get on the internet and pay a woman to like make a video and shout at them about how small their wieners are. Some dudes, not me. I would never pay for that. But some dudes do that. 40 drafts the San Fran playbook. It's it's a different it's a different means to the same end. But like he felt like he scored a lot last season. He did have a high point total. He did not think his offense was the problem last season. And he did avoid relegation. So we'll see how it works out for him. But now let's look at this defense. And basically, he just handled it all with his first round picks. Washington top, one of the strongest units. Yeah. Yeah, you like that, Levi. So you got the Washington top, Dexter Manley, one of the best defenders in the game. And his backup dancers, Wilbur Marshall and Barry Wilburn. Wilbur's going to get some play on extra point blocking. And then on the bottom part of his defense, he's got Rufus Porter, a decent player. Hopefully, put some pressure um, on opposing teams' kickers. This is a defense after my own heart, right? Like this is a defense I would try and put out on the field for sure. I don't know if I would have spent this capital to put it out there. I don't know if I'd take the second overall hero pick and pick Rufus Porter, but this is what I would be working toward if I had the Washington top. So a good versatile defense there. 40's got a good team. There's talent here. Um, he'll be living and dying off of getting extra yards by being evasive with the running back because he's never going to be in a good position running the ball and avoiding play picks. I know how that goes. That's how I lived all season 11. Chris's team, Chris returned to the playoffs last season. I thought he had a really good team and honestly underperformed with the quality of his team. But after a couple of losing seasons, he made it back to the playoffs. This season, he's got uh, a really shitty quarterback, Danny White, but he's got an offense that you want. Like, if you're going to have a shitty quarterback, this is the one you want to have it, or one of them. Uh, so Chicago playbook with Danny White at quarterback, Dickerson. Um, so it's basically going to be like having Walter Payton in the Chicago offense. We know that works. He's going to have Steve Largent bombing deep on both Chicago pass plays. Got to be pleased with that. Dallas O line, dog shit. There's nothing you can do about that. I thought long and hard about taking Dave Dewerson in the Chicago top in the second round. Decided no, I want a running back this season. So they fall to Chris. He's got Dewerson, the Miami mid, which is going to give him Evans and Offerdahl. So again, he's got positional flexibility with his middle, or like run scheme flexibility with his middle units, just like I do. I respect that. Cleveland bottom. So really, wow, this is a wacky defense. So like elite inside linebackers and elite safeties. That's very good. And of course, he's got Landetta and the New York special teams. The real show, Phil Cold Ass McConkey. Nelson 79 had a decent season last in season 11. I think he missed the playoffs, though. Winning record, but missed the playoffs. So that sucked. And then ran into a buzzsaw in Wade in the Hero Cup with that crazy team. I don't know if that's the answer. I don't know how to handle the Hero Cup with promoted teams. That's at least until G League is the same size as as the main league. Because yeah, that was a tough drop, and Wade's a good player. So you got a good player with a great team. Holy shit, that's tough. And he won the Hero Cup to the surprise of no one. Wisconsin's own Dave Craig. Oh, he lost to Dizzy, who's that's my bad. Oh, Nelson. Okay, well, there's no excuse then. All right. Did you beat Tennessee? Is that how that worked? Okay. All right. Well, never mind. Okay, so you beat Tennessee and then lost to Dizzy. Wow, that's a quality win for Dizzy's program. I knew he made the finals last season. All right. Nelson's team, Wisconsin's own Dave Craig at quarterback, Walter Payton, the Minnesota wide receivers. That's good skill set. Um, Now, my thing is, if you're going to draft a tight end, What playbook do you put him in? Dallas is not a great one. You could maybe the non-shotgun play. Of course, I'm always looking to throw to the bottom receiver on that one, but you could maybe get that ball into Steve Jordan on that route. With the Dallas shotgun play, that works because of the interplay between the top wide receiver who only goes about 10, 11 yards down the field and the bottom wide receiver who goes way deep. It's not really a play that I have ever looked to get the ball to my tight end, but it's a really good play for Anthony Carter, I think, because he's going to get the ball. Lewis is going to go deep. It's going to take him a while, but he's going to go deep. Defense has got to cover him, which is going to put the ball in Carter's hands about 10 yards down the field. He's got the speed to tack on some decent extra yardage. So this will be a good offensive attack here. Now we look at the defense. Rulon Jones and Lee Williams. I mean, it's a solid pairing, right? Like Rulon is I think 14-1-8 and Williams is 15-1-8. That's you in a league. I know Levi's worried about his defense. In a league where defensive talent is stretched this thin, that's a solid combo, right? Now the problem is that neither is even close to being an elite defender, right? And there's even a big difference between Lee Williams at 15-1-8 and like Dexter Manley, the best defensive end, at 15-1-7. They play differently. It's noticeable because I've had them both plenty of times. Um, but in this league, I don't think that's a bad pairing, right? It's not a deep defense. We all got real sweaty about defense this draft. I think it's fine, right? And then those indie special teams where the punter and the kicker are the highlight. Looking now to the Pacific Northwest, Fiddlesticks and Tecmo Seattle. Got the Washington playbook. I would have guessed that I took a gamble when I took Minnesota special teams instead of taking a playbook because I was thinking about like Chicago, the Chicago playbook, and I knew that would not be there the next time I picked, but I kind of thought that maybe Denver would. Max surprised me and he took Denver. Um, and so it was Washington that fell. Now, potentially, I could have gotten screwed if I passed on Washington, I want to say in the fifth round. And then if Dan passed on a playbook in his picks, and then it goes back up because it was me, 40, and Dan that needed a playbook. Had to think at that point the 40 was probably putting on the gimp mask and going back to San Francisco. But I didn't know that. I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know that 100%. And I didn't want to get caught in a game of chicken because I had to pick before Dan in the last round. So he could wait me out. And I would have to take San Fran or LA, which my offensive picks are not suited for LA. And so I decided if it's not like there was a ton of great talent left on the board in fifth round anyway. I could have gotten a better O line. So I took Washington to make sure that I had a playbook I like, a playbook I've won and won big with before. I'm putting Doug Williams there. Doug's a middle of the pack quarterback. Marcus Allen, talent wise, a middle of the pack running back. Very strong set of receivers in Gary Clark and Ricky Sanders. I think this earbud's about to die. And the shitty Seattle offensive line. This is a really good offense because there's no weak parts. And then when you factor in Minnesota special teams, which is another very balanced, very strong unit. Oh, Nelson, I can explain that. He didn't. When he was listing the pass strength for both those guys, it was 11s across the board because in the base game, they don't throw to a running back, but their throws to all their receiving targets are 11. Existing in the code is ratings for their throws to running backs. Doug's is a little stronger than Phil's is, which is why Doug now appears to be better than Phil, and Phil looks the same as like Tommy Kramer and Dave Craig. I haven't gone through and looked at exactly how that breakdown works. Um, I don't have to worry about it because the Washington offense does not have a throw to a running back. But that's why those numbers have changed. I like this offense. Gonna have to run the ball effectively. Um, just like every year. When we do, we win. If I run like shit, like I did, I want to say in season 10, then it's rough. Right? Now, let's look at my defense. All right. So the highlight, of course, is that middle unit I built with my first round picks. Townsend is a very strong complement to McMichael and Singletary, and that's really all there is. With Indy and John Hand and Minnesota, and I think it's Doug Martin. I have a couple of defensive ends like I did last season, where they have a 14 top speed, nothing else to say for them. I have a very thin defense. There's a lot of thin defense going around. I don't have any speed on my top and my bottom, so I'm going to need to middle defenders. I did it last season. It worked out well. We're going to try to keep that going. Powerful Minnesota special teams. I think this is a good team. Um, if I wind up getting relegated, I can't blame a shitty draft. My man Dizzy P in Denver got that Minnesota playbook in it. He is putting Randall Cunningham, Tony Dorsett, the LA wide receivers, and the Minnesota offensive line. I will give Dizzy credit. He took Randall Cunningham, number one overall, and then protected his investment. He grabbed Tony Dorsett and the LA wide receivers early. Um, I don't love that playbook, but that's only because I'm bad at it. There's people who are good at that playbook, um, who like it just fine. Ton of offensive talent in Denver. Dorsett should be able to run the ball okay, I would think. Yeah, he always puts a good team out there. Now, his defense, he's basically grabbing his nuts and swinging Lawrence Taylor at everybody and anybody all the time because there's nothing else to like with this group. Kenny Easley at top safety has tremendous top speed, but he plays like he's running in concrete cleats, dude. And it's because he has terrible acceleration and no initial speed. So Lawrence Taylor's the show with this defense. But listen, you put an offense that talented out on the field and you have a defensive playmaker like Lawrence Taylor, you're going to stay in every game you're in. I say this, Dizzy always puts a great team out there. Um, yeah, just clubbing everybody. Um, the talent is there. Dizzy, if I have a critique of his play, he needs to run with his quarterback less and throw with his quarterback more. Randall Cunningham is a good QB because he has a strong arm. The running speed is just a bonus. You got to make plays through the air. Um, because a play through the air is going to get you 10, 15, 20 yards. Running with the quarterback, I mean, you might get a first down if you're lucky, right? Usually you're not. And you need to make hay when the sun shines. With only 4 plays in the playbook, you know a play pick is around the bend, right? And if you run with the quarterback and then get play picked, it's third down and you're back at square one. So, my man, focus on getting the ball down the field through the air. Otherwise, I really like this team. Drew Manster, New York playbook that he's not going to use right. He's got Tommy Kramer, Herschel Walker, and just a delectable set of receivers. Incredible, incredible set of offensive talent here, other than Tommy Kramer. Didn't Chris, I think Chris had Tommy Kramer last season and was abysmal with him. Just a turnover machine. Uh, Tommy does not have a big time playmaking arm. But the New York playbook is structured where you don't necessarily have to, especially if you're going to cheese. Drew Morally, I don't think can cheese at this point. Not with all the shit he's taught. He's got to play it straight. So the curls plays are basically zoom routes, and the one he's really gonna want. Okay, so this earbud just died. How's my volume? Um, do I still sound okay with just the one earbud? Okay. Um, he's got to make quick throws with Tommy Kramer, which is not an idea I'm excited about. But Drew is also probably the best player in the league. Here, Dan. I'm sure he'll be fine. Love the talents. I've had Tommy Kramer in one with him. You can do anything. All right. LA top. I mean, it's definitely not a good unit, but he's got a couple of guys that aren't rock bottom. He's got that Seattle mid, so Fred Young and the Bars. Solid unit. Fred Young, one of the best defenders in the game. Great extra point blocker. Bods gives you some flexibility against other playbooks in the run. And then he's got TJ Turner in the Miami bottom. So Drew is like me. He's got no problem defending with a 14-0-9 defensive end. He's good at it. And that he's going to do that a lot when he's not calling run. It's going to be either defensive end. Yeah, me too. I'm comfortable with it. Do I wish they were faster? Yeah, obviously. I wish I had Dexter Manley every season, but you can get it done with the John Hands of the world for sure. Denver special teams, we don't love it. That's a really bad unit, bad returner, bad punter. Kicker's pretty good though, so that's nice. Um, but yeah, Drew's going to be looking to outscore people here. Well, I'm not going to say that shit. Drew's an excellent defender. He's going to be fine. He does not have a crazy talented defense, though. Tennessee Williams, John Elway in the Indy playbook with Thurman Thomas. Now that's fucking interesting. And he goes with the Denver wide receivers fall to him there, and he gets the Indy O line. Elway and Thurman is an interesting dichotomy or like dual attack in that offense. I find that very interesting. I think he's going to wish he had a little bit of speed at that top wide receiver spot because Booza being able to get down the field just a little bit faster really does open things up on pass one. But I don't know. I kind of like it. I don't think it's terrible. And then, of course, on defense, he's got Carl Banks, the Denver mid, which I couldn't even tell you a single person who's on that. Oh, no, Mecklenburg. What the fuck am I talking about? I'm so dumb. Uh, so Mecklenburg and Carl Banks, that's crazy. And then Jacob Green highlights the Seattle bottom. This is a talented team. Tennessee had a very nice draft here. Washington special teams. I know. I'm telling you, man, I am tired. Oh, my mind is wandering. Um, this is a very good team. Nice job, Tennessee. Not too shabby. I dig it. Here, G League champion, Hero Cup champion Wade in West Virginia. Seattle playbook, solid. Phil Sims, solid. OJ Anderson, solid. Dallas wide receivers, dog shit, but he's going to be putting Altoon. Altoon's a bottom wide receiver, I think. I don't love the bottom wide receiver. It's going to be nice on the little dump off there. But the reason pass two works so well is Largent, like in tournament play, Largent gets deep. Like he gets real deep. And so if guys are dicking around trying to take away the short throws, you bomb it over, right? Well, I don't know how well you can do that with the Dallas wide receivers, but I do think that Toon's going to rack up some nice yardage when he does get the ball in his hands. So solid offense here. San Fran O line. Let's look at Wade's defense. Ronnie Lott, bunch of nobodies in the New York middle. Dwayne Bickett, Fred Robinson. All right, this is that is the defense. Very similar to the one I put out there in season one. I paired Ronnie Lott with Dwayne Bickett, and that was going to be my defensive attack, and I mean, it worked pretty well. I went to the finals in a crazy stacked league. So, yeah, you knock out that top speed, you knock out that bottom speed, you're in very, very solid position here. And of course, McNeil and the boys with the Cleveland special teams. So Wade has a good squad out there. My man Mac surprised me, took the Denver playbook. In it, he's putting Joe Montana. I like the quarterback run. Not, I don't run like straight up the middle. I angle up towards the top. Uh, with Elway in tournament play, when you have called shotgun and the other guy calls pass one, because that puts bracket coverage on your top and your bottom guy, right? And it leaves your tight end and your running back open, but they wind up in the same place. What Drew does in that situation is he just fires off a quick throw to the tight end. I wait a second and let that log jam kind of clear out and then follow up behind it and try and make a move with the quarterback. Uh, Montana is well suited for pulling that off. Roger Craig, not a great back, right? Um, I'll be looking to make Roger Craig beat me rather than letting Joe Montana whip my ass with the no, yeah, that's fine. I do these as a public service with a solid Miami wide receivers. He's got Washington O line, which is decent. Jeff Cross replacing the top DN on the Dallas defense. Washington middle, bunch of nobodies, but the Washington bottom is a very good unit. So Cross and Charles Mann up front defensively. I love it. Gerald Green gives you some flexibility in the back end to call some bunk bed. Miami special teams comes with a real good punter, not a great kicker, and a terrible return man. But sometimes punting is the main thing, right? Solid squad out there in San Francisco. I'm just going to record comments on DPS's draft. I'm just going to record what I say. You know what I mean? You say that, dude. I didn't think he was very good. Well, Levi, I know you're a believer in that 9-2 speed. When I played you and in some of the games I watched, I was not blown away by Raj. Um, Now, if you can get the ball in his hands on the shotgun play 15 yards down the field, now we're talking. That's something in that Denver playbook. I'm just going to record um, comments on Dan's draft, and then I'm just going to copy paste because it's so tiresome, and I hate that he fucking wins all the time. But okay, so we got Jim McMahon, check. Got a solid running back, check. Um, let's see, Brent Jones with the Indy. Well, Dan at least had to pick him. Um, Dan had to pick him earlier than he usually does, right? Like I noticed that. Um, Jim is always kind of like Mr. Irrelevant, and he wasn't able to do that this season because I think Dan understood that he was in peril of not having Jim this year. Um, but nobody seemed to really mention it in the public Discord. But I think he was a frog in a pot, and he started to feel that water boil. He was like, "I'm getting the fuck out of here. I might have my man Jim." Per Warner, Brent Jones highlighting this. I mean, so Dan one kind of Forrest Gumped his way into a good playbook. I don't think what we're doing with the LA playbook is the right thing because I think it's been gamed successfully twice, both times involving the Washington playbook. That's just my opinion. Um, but he was able to use the LA loophole to get the Washington playbook. His receiver core is not a great fit. I don't love a good tight end in that playbook, but now that I think about it, I guess it's not that bad. Booza and Brent Jones, I think, are going to be a solid combo. So this is a good offense. He's got a bad O line, but all the real ones do. Hanford Dixon, no surprise here. Dan's got to have a safety. He's got to have an extra point blocker. He's gotten that Michael Carter. And then he has two, like, as far as bottom units go, there aren't many very good ones. The fact that Chicago has a 14 top speed bottom D end and a bottom 14 top speed bottom outside linebacker does make them technically better than several other units. So not something you want to sing a song about, but it's okay. And then he's got that LA special teams. That's a yeah. I think you're right, Drew. You let Booza go deep, and then you dump it underneath to Brent Jones and see what he can do for you. I dig it. You know, I think it'll work. So when I'm running that play, if Clark is covered, I'm looking to get that ball out quick to Ricky Sanders. If that isn't going to work, I'm just going to run with the quarterback. There's maybe try and dump it underneath Didier. We'll see how that goes, how things develop. So a very Dan squad in Chicago this season. Looking at our man Jerry. Jerry, he wanted that Miami playbook. He wanted it real bad. And it's to cover up for the deficiencies of Timmy Smith. Right? I know that he took that on advice from Ninja. You're going to suck unless you get the Miami playbook. And so Jerry got the Miami playbook. He's got Jay Schrader, Timmy Smith, and the Chicago wide receivers in that Miami playbook. Well, I mean, it's not good. Right? Like, this is not a good set of talent. But Jerry spent all his draft capital on on his special teams. Right? He grabbed that hero offensive line unit and he grabbed Chicago special teams with his first round pick. So that's what he sowed, and so this is what he has harvested. Also, Jerry doing that in the first round is the reason I did not take Dave Duerson with my second round pick because I feel like letting Marcus Allen slide to Jerry was bailing him out on bad first round picks, or at least like I shouldn't say bad is harsh, but first round picks that I hate to see. And I feel like letting a 9-4 running back slide to him would have been bailing him out on that. So, well, with that attitude, man, yeah. Jerry, not a good offense. Defense, though, Minnesota top, that's solid. LA mid, Bill Pickle will get in there just a little bit faster on a play pick. Otherwise, that's about the extent of his use. And then Denver bottom sucks, largely irrelevant. Dennis Smith will be his best defender down there. So the Minnesota top, that's a solid unit. This is not the most talented team. Jerry really needs these kick returns to fucking pay off for him. He needs to be housing one or two a game. Because as far as like every down talent, his is probably the least talented squad we've seen so far. So let's look at the other interest. Let's look at the most talented team. Cody, uh, undefeated season 2 seasons ago, fighting for his life to not be in the relegation round last season. Back at the top of the draft, and boy howdy, he pairs Dan Marino with Bo Jackson. Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah, that's so good. And then even a solid receiver core here. Like Cleveland's not bad. Reggie Langhorne and Ozzie Newsome, they're all right. Uh, Denver O line, not a terrible unit. Right. So just crazy talent. In the Cleveland playbook, Cleveland is one of those that I don't love because I'm not very good at it. There are guys much more effective with those, like the Cleveland and Minnesota playbooks than I am. So we'll see how that goes. And I mean, okay, so he gets Michael Dean Perry and Howie Long. He has like, I don't know, like four of the 12 or so best players in the league are all on his roster. Jesus Christ. Miami top, Boza, he's manable. Dallas mid sucks, but it's going to be a lot better with Michael Dean Perry at that top defensive tackle spot. NDP's strength needs to be nerfed. You can't have a guy that powerful getting through the line that quick um, just snapping the ball. It can't be. I think it sucks. Um, but we'll see how much havoc that truly wreaks this season. And then Howie Long coming in on the pass rush, of course, a strong, manable defender. The one knock I got on Howie, it's why I don't like him as much as I should, because you think I'd really like Howie. But as a man defender, he doesn't have the initial or the acceleration to take away quick throws to the top. You're going to complete that on Howie pretty much every time, as long as you don't hesitate. So that's a knock I got on Howie. But I'm really just grasping at straws here because, as far as top line talent goes, this Green Bay team is absurd. Dallas special teams has a good kicker. I think their punter's all right. Levette is a non-entity as a returner. So this is going to be an extremely difficult season. This is going to be a tough one to win games. There's going to be good players that have losing records, for sure. Johnny, get out of there. Dog was trying to go in my room. I got a new like cooling comforter. Oh, it's sinful. Dog's not allowed to get on it. Um, I want to have it for a while before it starts to smell like Johnny. So anyway, that's what I got for you guys. Lots of good players in this league, some very solid teams. Um, I wish everybody the best of luck. I hope that G League has had their second pick in the second round by now. Pick it up, boys. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. All right. Good luck, everybody. I'll chat with you later.